If you don't build it, we won't come. That's loosely paraphrasing Bill Daley's comments about NHLers going to the Olympics. For more on that, here are the insiders, Chris Johnston, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger. Dregs, are we down to crunch time now in terms of figuring out if the arena in Milan will be ready and acceptable to play in?
Well, look, I mean, the National Hockey League, the NHLPA are both very concerned about the state of these venues. But I can tell you that there's also some optimism in all of this as well. One of the arenas is expected to be tested next week. Both are expected to be available for a full test run event in January. So that's good news. There is expected to be a Zoom meeting on Friday involving the league, involving the Players Association to get a true progression report. But the bottom line is, as Bill Daley stated, if these venues aren't ready, then the NHL won't go. But both sides expect that they will be.
Meanwhile, the team counter selection process continues. The rosters aren't officially due until December 31st. But could we see all but the final cuts made inside the next week, Pierre?
Certainly being dubbed a critical meeting that's starting Sunday in Florida involving Doug Armstrong, his management group, including Pete DeBoer as well. And Doug Armstrong told me by the time they wrap up those meetings on Tuesday, they hope to have about 70% of the roster going from pencil to pen, to use his words. And part of our conversation that we had on Wednesday was that up front at forward is still so many hard decisions, so many players making hard on them. And, you know, my sense is this, I think there's a group of players that weren't at Four Nations that remain heavily in the conversation, but there's only 2 or 3 spots, I think, available from that Four Nations roster. That includes Macklin Celebrini, Bo Horvat, Tom Wilson, Nick Suzuki, Wyatt Johnston, Mark Scheifele, and Connor Bedard. Of course, to me, only 3 of that list make the Olympic roster, and those are the conversations they'll have this weekend here.
Meanwhile, brutal news out of Dallas this week. Tyler Seguin going to miss the rest of the season because of his ACL injury. So where do the Stars go from here, CJ?
Yeah, very unfortunate. Tyler Seguin had been playing an important role for the Stars, who are off to a great start to the season. And I think where it leaves them now is they're likely to be even more aggressive buyers than they were already going to be at this year's trade deadline. And certainly they are in a win-now mode as is. But with Seguin's ACL injury, when they get the precise timeline, they'll know whether they're getting essentially $4 million in extra space that they can spend, or up to almost $10 million if Seguin isn't able to return it all this year. And so, you know, Pierre earlier this week reported they were in on Kiefer Sherwood of the Vancouver Canucks. I would expect the Stars will be combing the market for forwards as we get closer to March 6th. And will be quite aggressive ahead of that trade deadline.
Hey, guys, we know that making trades in the National Hockey League is a tough thing to do, but then you have to look at the condensed schedule and the fact that there are 2 roster freezes this year. You've got the holiday roster freeze, which is coming up on December 19th, but don't forget the Olympic trade freeze, which is February 4th to February 22nd. That's really not that far away from the March 6th trade deadline. Even though it's heavily scrutinized, there are some who think that we still could see double salary retention in play. But to make that work, because of how complicated it is, that first trade, if you're trying to retain salary, acquire that player, is likely going to have to be made between now and December 19th. So a lot of things in play.
Gentlemen, we're all on our way to the Board of Governors meetings this Monday and Tuesday. What can we look forward to on that agenda, Pierre?
Well, let's start with what we're apparently not going to see, and that's the word expansion does not appear in the agenda that was sent to governors across the league a couple of days ago. So does that mean, though, that there can't be groups from Atlanta or Houston that perhaps meet the executive committee of owners? I was told no, that won't happen either from a league source. I will say this, and Dregs and CJ were there too, in December 2014, even though the word expansion wasn't on the agenda, Gary Bettman stunned everyone with a ticket drive announcement for the city of Las Vegas and Bill Foley. So I'm not saying it's 100% no. What is on the agenda that we've seen, one is an Olympic report. I don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this. Dregs just talked about it. You can imagine that you'll hear a pin drop in that room as owners get the latest on the Milan Arena and the concerns that the league has with everything there. I think a real interesting conversation, an item that's called junior and college hockey landscape in North America. Boy, has the world changed underneath the NHL in terms of the feeder system. And in particular, a lot of discussion still about how AHL teams will be able to have one 19-year-old player per organization starting next year in the new CBA. Still not clear to a lot of people how that will be implemented. That'll be an important conversation, among others, at the BOG starting on Monday.
And an important piece of team business as we go to the BOG is the Carolina Hurricanes and Tom Dundon looking to bring on a limited partner with those conversations reportedly well down the road. And what's interesting about this, guys, he's selling a stake in the team at a valuation of $2 billion. That's more than double what he paid for the team 8 years ago, did Dundon. He will retain, I'm told, though, full controlling interest when this transaction, or if it goes through.
Our insiders, Chris Johnson, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger will have lots more on the BOGs begin Monday from Colorado Springs.